Hi there, and thank you for visiting my channel, Stamping in the Barnyard. I'm excited to share this new fold with you. It may not be new to some of you. I've seen the fold on Pinterest, but I have not come across measurements that would allow the card to fold and fit in the Stampin' Up! Medium envelopes. So I wanted to make sure that I had measurements that would allow us to do that. So this fold was a fold that I did in a recent card class of mine. We have a class called Spoilers Class, and it began because I have a number of grandchildren and several of them live quite far away. I'm in Florida and I have some in Alaska and I have some in Chicago, and it was important to me that my grandkids know that I'm thinking about them all the time, not just on their birthday or Christmas or other holiday opportunities. And so like-minded women who also had young children in their lives that they wanted to remember throughout the year. And my hope is that one day they'll remember that I sent them cards on a regular basis. So we formed the Spoilers Club, that's the point. And in my June class, someone recommended that we do a back to school card. And so I paired school days with the Inspiration Squad to make this card that says, I believe in you, and it's got the school books and the dragon. And I thought that would really appeal to young children going back to school. I did use the designer series paper from the suite that has the Turtley Awesome bundle, and this is the DSP from there that I thought would go really well with the dragon. So that's how this all began and how I came up with this card. But after I made it, I decided I really liked this designer series paper on this fold. So that's when I made this card that has "It's okay to take it slow, sweet friend," because I also have a number of ladies who, like me, are getting older, and this applies. That's all I can say, is it applies to me and several of my friends. So I want to share this fold with you because particularly the ladies that were in this class asked if I would make a video so that they could, even though they made the card in the class, they wanted to be able to repeat this fold. So here I am working on showing you how to make that card fold. Now, it's important that if you check underneath the video in the description box, I do have all of the measurements of DSP, basic white, cardstock, etc. to have ready to make this card. But the actual cutting, folding, scoring, I've left that off because it's a little bit confusing to try to write up, but it's easy if you allow me to show you. So that's what I'm gonna do now. And so you can just, if you have all of that ready, you can just prep right alongside me here. It's important that you start with our usual base is 5.5 by 8.5, but this is actually 8 1/4. So you want to make sure that you've cut off that 1/4 of an inch, and then it's 5.5 by 8 1/4. The next thing that you want to do, and the Stampin' Up! Trimmer is so perfect and easy for this part, because we're gonna just put the edge of our cardstock on 1 inch, and then we're gonna put the score blade, and it's all the numbers are written here on the side. So I'm gonna put this, I'm sorry, not score, cutting blade, because it does come with both, on 6.5. And then I'm gonna cut all the way up to 1 inch. And then I'm gonna flip it just like this, put the other side on 1 inch. And then we're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna start at 6.5 inches here. And then I'm gonna cut it all the way up to 1 inch. I like to go down it again just to make sure I've cut through the entire layer. And sometimes if your blade is old, it won't go through in one cut. You just wanna make sure you've got it cut all the way through, which this is. Now at this point, You could do this next bit of scoring that I'm going to show you. You could do it on that same trimmer because it does come with a scoring blade, but I just really like my Simply Score because I don't have to move my paper at all. I can just put it in and we're good to go. I just put a charger on my phone because I realized it wasn't on there. Okay, so at 1 inch, make sure that, so you have the score starting at 1 inch from one side and more than that from the other side. You want to make sure that if you're using a scoreboard or your trimmer that you're scoring 1 inch in, because you're basically going to hook up at 1 inch. So you got 1 inch just between the two cut marks, and then you're going to repeat that at 2 inches just between the two. So you have 1 inch and 2 inch. Then at 3.5 inch, you're just going to do the outer pieces. So I do that first inch, flip it, and then again at 3.5, just do that 1 inch up to the first cut mark. And then at 5.5 inches, we get to score all the way down all of the pieces. That's the only place we do that, but at 5.5, we get to score it all the way down. And then finally at 6.5, you get to connect the two cut lines again. And that's all that you need to do for this card. So you can put that aside. And then I'm going to show you very quickly how it gets folded, and we're going to burnish those score marks. So if you just take the inside of this, the first one is mountain, valley, mountain, valley. And then these almost go already for you, and it's mountain and then valley for those as well. And that then will fit inside our medium envelopes. Now it's important, I think at this point, to make sure that you really burnish these folds. So I'm just going to go through and burnish all of the folds that we just made. Get nice crisp folds. And I don't like to fold, let me show you what I mean. I don't like to fold like this on top of another piece, so I always try to get the edges to where there's nothing else underneath it. I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes if you score on top of another part of your card, then you're going to make marks where you don't mean to. Okay, so there we go. Now when we start putting the DSP on and everything, we're going to pull this out flat to do that. So I'm going to put this aside, and then I'm going to get these two pieces. And you can see one's wider than the other. The wide piece goes on the left-hand side, and then we're going to need our cutter again. And we are gonna do 2.5 inches on the 3/4 line. So I'm putting this edge at 3/4. And then I'm gonna take this to 2.5. And then I'm just gonna cut up. Flip it, put this at 3/4 of an inch. Then start at 2.5. Cut it up. And then I can, pretty sure this would be at 3.25 then and we're gonna connect. So now I have the opposite side. I've cut here. I don't know if you can see that, right? So now I've put this on 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just basically gonna cut down where I've made these two other cut lines. There we go. And they should just pull out. And if you get a little hanging bit here, it's just good to come in, and it just means I didn't take it quite all the way. It really is just a tiny, tiny bit here. and pull that out. And that will give us the left-hand side. And then with your thinner one, you're gonna do the same thing, only you're gonna go, so you'll put this on the 3/4 of an inch. You're gonna go down an inch and put the blade up. So you have 1 inch there, and then 1 inch here. And you've cut up on both sides. Oh, this, I put it on 1 inch rather than 3/4 of an inch. Thankfully, that wrong cut won't matter, but make sure you put this on 3/4 of an inch, not 1 inch. We'll just repeat that and go up. And now I want these to meet. So let's see, how do we make them connect? I just like to look at, we went in 1 inch, so I can just put this edge at 1 inch. And then I can see, it's really 3/4 of an inch from either side, but I can see that cut mark right through this. So I'm just gonna line it up with what I see is already cut. And then pull that out. And now we'll double check and make sure that these pieces of DSP fit. And they should, so keep your fingers crossed. This would go here. And that looks right. And this would go here. And that looks right. So yeah, we did it right. There we go. So now we're just gonna start putting all these pieces on. So I like to use this green glue a lot because it gives me a little chance to, especially on a card like this where I'm trying to get borders lined up in several places. It's not just a rectangle, it's got all these sides. So this green glue gives me that chance to move the paper exactly where I want it. But I also know that this glue, once it dries, really sticks. So I have no concern about somebody opening my card once they receive it and having the whole thing fall apart when they get there. Living here in Florida, I've received a number of cards that were put together maybe by, you know, a runner taper or something. And just the humidity here keeps them from staying together through the postal service. So that's one of the reasons why I find the green glue to be the winner. Okay, so we've got that one on, and now we're going to do this side. Same thing, just the perimeter. I know that if I have the two outsides well adhered, that I don't have to worry about any of the paper in between. It's not going anywhere. I don't like to take it too close to the edge because some of the green glue does squirt out, and so you want to make sure you don't have a mess on your hands. So we'll come in here, and there we go. Oh look, that's nice. Yep, very nice. Okay, so this is how it folds. So we go like this. So the next bit are, again, this paper is also from the Turtley Awesome suite. This designer series paper is a little bit of a contrast to this one, and that's why I like it. It's going to blend the image on the inside with the two papers, and I just really like the contrast. I think it frames it more. So we're going to go ahead and put these on. You don't have to. You could have used the exact same DSP for all of these pieces, but for me, I did like the contrast. So here we go. Again, I get to slide it a little bit and get it exactly where I want it. So what do you think? Too many pieces? I really don't think this is that difficult to put together. I hope you'll try it. If you do, let me know in the comments whether or not you tried it. I'd love to see pictures of it too. I don't know how we would do that. Maybe you can get them up on somewhere, because I did really like using that set with the dragon for the kids going back to school, but I really enjoyed using it on these turtles as well. So I'd love to see what you do with it. I also have a Facebook page called Stamping in the Barnyard. So if you do make this card and you take a picture of it, I'd love to see it up on Stamping in the Barnyard. Now, here we go. I cut this, you could cut this at 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, but I actually did 3 3/8 by 3 1/4, because for some reason, once you put all of the score marks in, you get, it just fits a little bit nicer that way. I can't explain the whys, but I think it has something to do with just cutting and separating. So I have already stamped and colored these 2 turtles, and I colored them with my watercolor pencils, which I think are such a good deal because you get so many colors and you can actually make more colors by mixing them. And I like to use my Wink of Stella on them because I feel like I get a lot of control that way. And I want you to see that these guys, their arms pop out when you die cut with the dies that come with this, so he can actually hold this balloon, and I'll show you how I'm going to secure that. And then I've also done this birthday cake, and so he can just put that in his hand too. So I just love that little extra thing that these dies do. Now I am going to want him to go here. I think I'm going to center them a little bit, because there's just about enough room for these guys too. I find that his arm sticking out can fit right in between his arm and leg. And then we'll just want to make sure the balloon is still on the paper. I moved over so we can do that. But before I do that, I always like to do a little bit of a light blue on the white background. And I don't generally, it's too far away, but I have like 4 blue, because I have customers that will use them all at the same time, that are all in the blue family, and I keep them together. And I never really add ink until I really can't get any more. I'm almost always convinced there's still enough left on there, and it keeps it from being too smudgy looking. So that's another tip for you there. Okay, so now I want to show you how to make it so that this balloon stays in his hand. Okay, so we're going to pop him up. I've got the balloon where I want it, and you can see the balloon is coming across right there. So I am going to take, now I don't want it too close to his head, and I'm going to take some dimensionals, which I have right here. And I'm going to put it right over where that line is and the arm, so that I know he now firmly has that balloon in his hand. Now I'm going to just put the rest of my dimensionals on him, so then I don't have to worry about whether it's going to slip out. Put one on his head. Here, I have little ones here too. I may use some of these little ones for his arm. I maybe should have used that one. I don't think it makes a difference, but I wonder if it makes the arm not really stick out by having used that bigger one. We'll find out on the cake one. Okay, the rest can take the bigger ones. And yeah, I'm not afraid to use dimensionals. I think it's, you know, once you've put all this time and effort into a card, you really want to make sure that it doesn't fall flat when it gets there. But look how cute they are standing out. Love it. I'm not gonna, well, I can. I know that he's gonna fit. So take off all my backings. I know some people do that with their take your pick. I never seem to have mine with me when I make my videos. Seems just as fast for me. It's just that I end up with these backings all over me by the end of a stamping session. Okay, so I'm gonna have him right pretty much to the edge because I know I don't have a lot of spare room here. And then you see the cake. I have the cake in his hand here. So I'm gonna turn him over. I got to see a little piece of that cake there in order to know that I'm adhering it. So that'll work. So see, I can see that little piece of that cake coming through here. So that's where I'm going to put. This time I'm going to do a small dimensional and see if that pops up his arm any differently. I don't think it will matter if it does or doesn't, but I'm curious. And then we'll go back to, and this actually will hold the cake too. So his outer arm in here, that means the cake's not going to go anywhere. Put one there, and then one here, and we'll do one more up here. I think I'm wishing I'll do one more little one. I don't like the thought that once it goes through the mail, it might, sink down in. So as I said, I'm pretty liberal with my dimensionals. My cards are too important to show up and fall apart or sink in. We'll put this little guy on. Now I've decided that I'm going to put the words on the back of this card and just have the image on the front. But there are different ways. I'm realizing I haven't put these pieces in yet. Well, we can still do that. So let's see. I'm going to have right there. They look like they're having fun, don't they? And I'll put this in here. Just make sure that if you cut yours at 3 1/4 and 3 by 3 3/8, it's 1/8 of an inch different. And so you want to make sure that you're putting your, and I hope I did, that you're putting your turtles upright. And this looks good because I also cut these at 3 3/8 as well. This is 1 inch and this is 1 inch. This is 5 1/2 inches. So that tells me that this should be 1 inch and 1 inch from 5 1/2. It should be 3 1/2 inches, right? But when I cut this at 3 1/4, I don't get the same edge. And I'm pretty sure it's because of the fold. So that's why I do that 3 3/8 extra. Now I do have pieces to go in here. I do remember cutting them. Here they are. Okay. This DSP has figures that you can die cut out of the turtles so that you don't have to color them in, but they also have some really cute scenes that you can cut out. They have like a stage, and then they have all these turtles playing like the banjo and having a microphone, like they're really jamming. And you put that all together, and it's really cute. And that's all part of the designer series paper. So there's some really cute stuff in here, in this whole suite. There's also an embossing folder that sort of has this turtley shell background. There's also a die that you can put on these turtles where the shell really is, just like this design here on the designer series paper. So see, there you have it. Isn't that cute? And then what I want to do, I still have some gems. Ooh, I put them far away. These are also part of the suite. And so in a minute, I'm going to put some gems on here. But first, I want to put on the other side. One of the stamps says, "Hope your birthday is turtley awesome." So I'm going to use the garden green because that's one of the colors in the DSP. And then I can also write a little message. Oh, before I stamp this, I want to make sure I've got it going in the right direction, and I do. I'll just put it at the top, leaving me a little bit to write a little personal message. There we go. On the back. So you can use these measurements for any kind of design of a card. I just really wanted to do these turtles and I thought that came up really cute. And now I am going to add some of these gems that come in the suite. I think I'm gonna go with, part of me wants to do the blue to kind of pick up the blues in the stripes and in that I put on the background. So I am going to go with a large, because they have large and small. I'm going to do a large gem here and a little one here. And then I'll do another little gem. Where do I want to put this? Here? Yeah, we'll do it here. That way when the card folds, it's not folding on top of the gems. And then you have them ready for a party. There you go. So that's the card. I hope you like it. Here's the other card I made using the other two stamp sets, and then one last one with "It's okay to take it slow." I hope you like them and make some. Put them up on my Stamping in the Barnyard page. I'd love to see them. Thank you.